Present in those whom are genetically predisposed, celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder of the small intestine caused by a bodily reaction to gliadin and resulting with lasting symptoms of varying severity. To simplify this, let's begin with the first portion of the sentence, genetically predisposed. Or, in a broader sense, the causes of the disease. Celiac disease is a genetic condition, meaning one must possess certain hereditary genes for the disease to manifest. HLA-DQ is the most common gene associated with celiac disease. It's a cell surface receptor type protein functioning in immune recognition. Triggered by gliadin, a gluten protein found in wheat, particular HLA-DQ variants in celiacs lose their tolerance to self-proteins, thus initiating an autoimmune reaction. Autoimmunity is essentially the failure of an organism in recognizing constituent parts as self, and consequently triggering an immune response against itself. This response is the premise of celiac disease entirely. Initiated by the consumption of gliadin, or more commonly referred to as gluten, the body wrongly attacks itself. This autoimmune reaction targets the small intestine, and to understand exactly what's going on within a celiac's body upon the consumption of gluten, we must look at its anatomy. The wall of the small intestine are lined with finger-like projections called villi. Projected from the villi are microvilli, responsible for absorbing the products of digestion into the lacteal and blood capillaries, which ultimately carry these vital nutrients to wherever they are needed in the body. The importance of villi cannot be overstated. Without them, the vast majority of the nutrients in the food we eat would leave our bodies without being absorbed, and consequently, our bodies would not get the fuel it needs to run its every system. When a person with celiac disease consumes gluten, the autoimmune reaction we previously discussed involving the HLA-DQ gene is triggered. So, the immune system then cross-reacts with the tissues in the small intestine, causing an inflammatory reaction which leads to the truncating of villi. To put simply, the villi is flattened. In this image, on the left, we see a healthy villi lining the average person's small intestine. On the right, we see a celiac's villi, post-gluten consumption. It has been significantly shortened by the process we've just outlined. Moving on to the symptoms of the disease. So the villi is likely irreparably flattened. We know nutrients are not being properly absorbed, but what exactly does that mean? Without proper nutrients, the body is left malnourished, commonly causing fatigue or lack of energy and weight loss. Irregular bowel tendencies and abdominal pain are oftentimes experienced, as the entire digestive system is not working as it should. While these symptoms often reoccur daily, let's look at how the disease affects our other body systems and homeostasis. People with celiac disease are at a greater risk for developing anemia, a decreased number of red blood cells due to lack of iron, as well as osteoporosis, brittle bones from lack of calcium. A small portion of celiacs develop abnormal coagulation or blood clotting due to a vitamin K deficiency, putting them at risk for abnormal bleeding. Growth may be stunted in children with celiac or puberty delayed. These potential developments are all thought to be attributed to the malabsorption of nutrients due to damaged villi. Additionally, as the bowel becomes more damaged, lactose intolerance may develop. Recurrent miscarriage and unexplained infertility has also been apparent in some cases. Moving on to the diagnosis of the disease. Celiac disease is diagnosed through blood test and/or a biopsy. A set of blood tests measure levels of certain autoantibodies, specifically immunoglobulin A, transglutaminase, and anti-endomysium. Note, while antibodies attack foreign substances in the body, autoantibodies attack the body's own tissues. In the case of a celiac, these autoantibodies take part in the autoimmune reaction we previously discussed against the villi. High levels of these autoantibodies indicate a high probability of celiac disease. A biopsy of the small intestine usually follows to confirm the diagnosis. Small intestinal tissue samples are examined underneath a microscope looking for classic signs of shrinkage or flattening of the villi. So a diagnosis has been confirmed, and we understand the disease itself. But what does treatment look like for celiac, and what about the future? Presently, there is no real treatment for celiac disease, besides a lifelong gluten-free diet. Researchers are in the process of finding a way to quicken the regrowth of flattened villi. As of now, damaged villi may take years to repair itself, or may not even undergo regrowth at all. Hence, the lasting symptoms that vary in severity. Only in children is it likely for villi to completely regrow to a full healthy state, eventually allowing full reabsorption of food's nutrients. But no matter the age or stage, whenever a celiac consumes gluten, the villi will, once again, be flattened by the autoimmune reaction that is triggered. This is why the prognosis for the future with the disease is a strict gluten-free diet. Without the consumption of gluten, villi should, theoretically, undergo gradual regrowth and symptoms should lessen. But, oftentimes, damage is irreparable, and a gluten-free diet will only inhibit the worsening of the symptoms. It should be known that celiac disease varies hugely case by case, as the resiliency of no two bodies is the same. Thanks for watching, and we hope to have provided you with a better understanding of how celiac disease disrupts homeostasis.